Hey everybody, how are you? It is me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and Effie. Hello Effie. You've been in the shot and now it's time for me to talk, my darling. Alright, so we are talking about sea witchery and we are reading out of Earth Power by Scott Cunningham. This is one of my favorite topics. And so I was doing some morning reading before I opened my bedroom window. And the first thing I flipped to was Sea Magic. And so that appears as chapter 17 in Scott Cunningham's Earth Power, Techniques of Natural Magic. And it's starting on page 145. So I thought, hi everybody, hi Alan, hi Jay, hi little bunny Flopsy. Hello to everybody who's here. Hi Dangerous Eyes. So yes, Sea Magic. It is not a long chapter, but it's got loads of information that I wanted to share with you guys. Loads and loads. So we'll see how far we get. And as far as, you know, it's a short chapter. Perhaps we'll get through it, perhaps we won't. But I'm just going to start reading about sea magic because, well, my guides told me to. So that's what I'm doing. Sea magic is that which is practiced near the ocean, or with the objects that the ocean fashions and transforms. The sea has for millennia been worshipped, feared, consecrated, prayed to, sacrificed to, and otherwise revered. It has been the abode of goddess and gods, mermaids and mermen, undines and serpents, hideous monsters, and fetching sirens who lured sailors to their deaths on treacherous rocks. Beneath its waves lie ancient fabled lands and civilizations such as Atlantis, ancient Lemuria. If you guys don't know about ancient Lemuria, go back and watch my RH negative and copper video because I talk about ancient Lemuria in there, and that is where my bloodline comes from. If you're RH negative, then a lot of people believe that your bloodline comes from Lemuria. I believe that. Hey Raven Sand Moon, hi, and Layla the Witch, Nature Lover. Glad to see you guys here. We're reading from Scott Cunningham's Earth Power on Sea Magic. So yes, to learn more about ancient Lemuria, you can look back on my copper and RH negative blood video. So, and also the Lyonese, just to name a few. So Atlantis, Lemuria, Lyonese, just to name a few. And from it, all life has emerged. Thus, the sea is both the beginning and the end, Alpha and Omega. Hey Debbie, how are ya? We're reading out of Earth Power by Scott Cunningham. Okay, so Alpha and Omega, the source of all life, that which nourishes it. In ancient times, as today, population centers were located close to the rivers and the coastline. That makes sense. That's where food was. Live food. Here was easy access to food, fish, shellfish, and seaweeds. Seaweeds are a huge part of my diet and my family's diet, and I really got into them with the macrobiotic diet in the late 1990s. So if you don't eat seaweeds, please look into them. I also use various types of seaweeds in my craft. I use dulse, which is like a purple seaweed. I use kelp, which is the thick parts of seaweed. You can get these at the Asian markets, etc. I use wakame, which is the seaweed you find in miso soup. And sometimes I love, like when you can find them on the ocean, the kelp bulbs that float in the water. Those are magical to me. Okay. We were talking about seaweeds. Okay, as well as a platform on which crafts of reeds and pitch, timber and hemp rope, and later of more sophisticated boats began to float and travel to distant lands. Those people who depended on the sea for their food, and thus their very lives, personified it. Gods and goddesses arose from its depths and spread their arms lovingly to embrace the simple peoples, or blew up waves that crushed their fragile boats and washed villages away. Just as streams, wells, and rivers have also been revered, you guys know how much I revere the well that my mother has, because we drink from it, we cook from it, we feed our plants with it. And it's very, very grounding because not long ago it was running beneath our feet and in the earth that we want to be so grounded too. Okay, so just as streams, wells, and rivers have all been revered, so too has the sea. Along with religious rites, magic was performed and still is today. Many of the old deities of the sea are now the stuff of books. Poseidon, Isis, Lyr, Pontus, Mary, Neptune, Shoni, Tiamat, Dylan, Mannanan, all and many more have had libations poured to them. Libations is when you pour out a little bit of alcohol for either an ancestor, a god, a past loved one. Okay, that's what a libation is. And maybe it doesn't have to be alcohol, but usually it is. So all of these gods, goddesses, and many more have had libations poured to them, incense offered to them, and sacrifices given to them. You're RHB negative? That's a very rare blood type. It's a rare blood type. Okay, so where are we at? What the books don't seem to know is that they live still. Their whispers are heard in the ocean's sighs, and their powers wax and wane with the moon. They lie waiting to rise up and be recognized again. Now that right there is an exciting paragraph to me, because I'm going to be moving to like southern Texas, right along the Gulf, and I'm going to be working with the sea. Massive amounts, not only the sea but storms, and the chapter before this is all about storms and rain and thunder and stuff, so we'll get to that as well. Alright, so where are we at? Though, so they can be rise up and be recognized again with magics. Though you don't have to worship the sea or its deities to practice sea magic, you must respect it as a vast storehouse of power. It is our ancestral mother, older than the continents upon which we live, older than the mountains or trees or stone. It is time itself. Though sea magic is best performed near the ocean, many of the following spells can be altered slightly and performed anywhere so long as you can acquire some of the tools. A bowl full of water unto which you've poured salt, I would pick sea salt if it was me, or the less refined salt you could. Probably not table salt, but if you had nothing else, of course. Alright. So a bowl of water into which you poured salt will work in a pinch for the ocean, as will a tub of salted water. Search in antique shops and specialty houses for shells, sand, seaweed, and so on. I don't know where you would look in the antique shop for those things, but a specialty shop, of course. Sea magic is as mysterious and flexible as the oceans themselves. Here is some of its magics. So this, now we are on page 147 and we're reading about the tides. The tides. The tides are an essential aspect of sea magic, as the moon is to all magic. They mark the heartbeat of the ocean, the fluxes of power that can be tapped and drawn upon in magic. There are 4 phases of the tides and the moon, which is the tide's ruler. This book doesn't have a tarot deck with it. It's just one of Scott Cunningham's books, and it's just techniques of natural magic. Nope, no oracle or tarot deck with this one, Debbie. So here are the 4 phases of the tides and the moon, which is the tide's ruler. The first one is flow. When the tide is coming in from low to high tide, that's called flow. You're welcome, Debbie. Number 2 is high tide. The highest the ocean rises on the beach in any 12-hour period. Scotty's books are, I go by them. Like, I trust everything that he says, and if I'm curious about it, I say out loud, like, I don't know about that, Scotty, but this is my main author. He's my father of witchcraft. I'm so sad that he's passed away. So then the number 3 is ebb, spelled E-B-B. If you've ever heard of ebb and tide, this is ebb. Ebb is when the tide is receding from high to low tide. And the last one is low tide, the lowest the ocean falls on the beach in any 12-hour period. Okay, So now we're going to talk about them. Low tide is generally not used in magics. It is a good time for meditation and introspection, however, also for looking into past lives. I would add in there and say possibly some shadow work. All positive, productive spells should be performed during a tide's flow. So you know how a lot of people use the waxing or waning moon, or a full or a new moon, depending on what kind of working they want to do? 4 different phases, right? Full, new, waxing, waning. Okay? Well, same with the tides. There are 4 tides. Flow, high tide, ebb, and low tide. This is interesting to me. Hey, Madam Butterfly, I'm glad to see you here. Thank you. Raymond Buckland is absolutely another great author. Absolutely. So low tide is generally not used for magic. Great time for meditation, introspection, looking into past lives, and I would say shadow work, but Scotty doesn't say that. Now, all positive, productive spells should be performed during a tide's flow. And the flow is when the tide is coming in from low to high. This includes, so the spells that you want to do or the workings that you want to do on the tide's flow include fertility workings, money workings, love, healing, and so on. So things of a really positive nature. Okay. High tide is traditionally the best time to do spells of any sort, positive or negative, good or bane. B-A-N-E, bane. When the sea is ebbing, and remember, ebb is when the tide is receding, going from high to low. When the sea is ebbing, spells of a destructive or banishing nature are best performed. And it's just like when we do hoodoo and we're tearing our petition papers, our brown petition papers, because when we write a petition in hoodoo, all the edges need to be torn in either one direction or the other. And when we're tearing those petition papers, if this is something that's banishing or something we want away from us, we tear the paper away from us. If it's something like love, fertility, something we want to bring into our lives, we tear the paper toward us. So here are some things that are just reminding me. It'll be easy to remember that way, I suppose, if you just think of it like bringing things toward you or pushing things away from you. So you'll have that ebb and flow. All right, so now, when the sea is ebbing, spells of a destructive or banishing nature are best performed. There are 2 high and low tides every day. Most sport fishing stores and libraries have tide tables. You can also find tide tables, sometimes just in line at the grocery store. They're with the Farmer's Almanac and then the National Enquirer and all those junk magazines, etc. There's oftentimes a tide table there, so that's another good place to look. Also, if you're in the U.S. and you go to buy a fishing license, they'll have a tide table there too, and they're generally free. Just a little booklet telling you about the tides of the year, etc. Okay. So there are 2 high and low tides every single day. Chart the tides the day you wish to do a spell. If you live near the ocean and perform it as close to the proper phase as you can for maximum results. This can be taken into account for every spell or magical working you perform, but isn't necessary. And what he's talking about right here, right now, is noting something in your grimoire or book of shadows. And why do we do this? It's not just a journal of what we did that day. It's also a journal, a scientific book, a hypothesis. What worked best? What do I feel like? You can look back and say, if I wanted that spell to work better or a little bit less strong, what could I do to alter it? And that is why we write these things down. The time of day, the tide that you use, the color you're wearing, all of these details could be something that either elevate or decrease the energy of your magical working. So note down every single thing you can, including how your emotions are that day. Are you on your period? Note that down too, because absolutely that will heighten your magical workings if you are in that beautiful time of your monthly cycle where you have the most magic, in my opinion. All right. So, for an important ritual, the highest tide of the month is a most auspicious time. You can determine this by studying a tidal table for a month and finding the largest number of feet in the ocean, largest number of feet the ocean rises on the beach. This is the highest tide, and it always corresponds with the full moon. Now that's something I think is really beautiful too, that the tides and the moon are perfectly paired up. Or for sexual power. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why you couldn't use that. The sea, the ocean is so a land of fertility. It really is. It's just so full of life. Yes. Hi, Spirit Moon. Hi, beautiful wife. Hey, Mama Hennessy. Hi, Queen Ushindi. Hello, everybody that joined. Okay, so foreign import, we talked about that. In addition to, this is the highest tide, and it always corresponds with the full moon. If you can't wait, don't worry, it won't harm the spell. In addition to the extra powers at large in the sea on the high tide, there is also a practical reason for charting the tides. Rites performed on a secluded stretch of beach are truly evocative. Magical experiences, but if the tide is flowing and the area is rocky and faced with sheer cliffs, you could find yourself trapped with nowhere to go. This almost happened to me one night, Scotty says. After a magical night on the beach, the tide rose dangerously high. I had to climb over a series of jagged cliffs in near darkness to return to my car. Glancing back, I saw the beach underwater. After that, I always charted the tides. Wow. I can't really, I've never ever remember reading that section, and I know that I've read this book from start to finish at least once or twice. It's a small book. But that's nuts that Scotty went through that and he almost died because he hadn't planned out the tides. So you guys, the ocean is a cruel mistress. We know that, right? The sea is a cruel mistress. But also is very, very giving. You just need to really be sure that you know how to work with the sea. Okay, so the tools of sea magic are, this section is called the tools. The tools of sea magic are found in the ocean or tossed up by the waves on the beach. They are natural and man-made. Okay, it says they are natural and man-made, ancient as the sea itself, and as new and fresh as the dawn. Though the tools vary from place to place and era to era, here are some of the best known tools for sea witching. Seashells, right? Seashells. You guys all know what a seashell is. I don't need to go grab one. Gifts of the sea. Shells are used to represent the oceanic deities. Long spiraled shells signify the gods. I do have one of those to show you. Quite proud of it. I'm going to be making a wand out of it, but I don't have one to make. Nobody's asked for one yet, but as soon as somebody asks for a sea witch wand, this one is going to be going atop of it, and you can just get the wand in there. You know, it may require some glue, but normally I use hemp to tie things with, so we'll see. But yes, this is one of those long pointed, almost looks like a unicorn horn. I honestly want to make this into just a unicorn horn. That's probably why I've never ever made it into a sea witch wand. But these are fantastic. I didn't find this on the sea. I found it thrifting in a bag of seashells, and this very shell is the reason why I got the bag. But yes, I oftentimes just want to plant it here and have a unicorn horn. That's my own struggle. You have a beautiful crown made from those? That's awesome. I would love to see that. Okay, so we're saying that these long spiraled shells signify the gods, while the round symbolize the goddess. So these are the god, and it makes sense because this looks phallic. So this is the male, whereas the round ones look more like the womb. Remember, when we talked about May Day, the maypole was the phallic masculine, and the cauldron is your big bowl of the womb, or the feminine. Alrighty. So while round seashells symbolize the goddess. Cowries, C-O-W-R-I-E-S, have been used for centuries for the latter purpose. I don't know what cowries is. If somebody wants to look that up and tell us the definition, that would be so amazing. It's spelled C-O-W-R-I-E-S. I would really appreciate that. You saw one on Pinterest? That's awesome. Okay. So yeah, cowries have been for centuries used for the latter, the goddess. Many sea witches and magicians place shells on their altars for this very reason when performing sea magic at home. And again, if you're Wiccan and you really want to have that whole like male, masculine, feminine, north, south, east, west, all of that stuff, then you would have one of these for the masculine and a round shell for the feminine on your altar. Because as far, I don't know a ton about being Wiccan. I'm not Wiccan. But for those of you who are here who are Wiccan, I'm on the right path, right? On your altars, you always have like a feminine, a masculine. There's a general setup there. Whereas my altars being eclectic, cowrie shells are the ones that look like little... Thanks, Madam Butterfly! So she says cowrie shells are the ones that look like little vajayjays. Thank you. That's hilarious. And I know what she's talking about, actually. I don't have one on me, but it's the kind that are like shaped like this, and then they curl in, and you can kind of just see the black middle part. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. They do look like little vajayjays. You're right, Madam Butterfly. Okay, so that is the cowrie, and again, that can be used for the feminine. And, you know, just looking at a shell now, you're going to be able to recognize, oh, that one looks more masculine, that one looks more feminine. And however it resonates to you, knowing this little bit about cowrie shells and round shells and pointed shells, you get it now, okay? So it's not that difficult. And now Heather has typed cowrie, C-O-W-R-Y, or cowrie, C-O-W-R-I-E, is the common name for a group of small to large sea snails, marine gastropod mollusks in the family of Crypidae and cowries. So we've got both a really great explanation from Madam Butterfly saying it looks like a vajayjay, and then one from Heather that's giving us the actual, like, probably Wikipedia or definition of it. She also says the term porcelain derives from the old Italian term for the cowrie shell due to its similar appearance. Wikipedia, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate that help because it adds so much to the videos. Thank you so much, Heather and Madam Butterfly. Okay, so now we're going to talk about many sea witches and magicians place shells on their altars for this very reason when performing sea magic at home. When spells are done by the seashore, a protective circle can be marked out with a ring of shells gathered for that specific purpose. So, if you're on the sea, on the ocean, on any body of salt water, salt is already everywhere. Salt has penetrated every piece of earth, piece of air that you're breathing. It's in the air, it's in the sand, it's in the water. So that's why I think that we're making a circle here out of shells rather than salt, right? If you were to take your salt and put it in a ring, it's kind of redundant at that point because the ocean is salt itself, right? That's where we get it, it's where it derives. Now, instead, we are gathering shells before our ritual or before we do a working for that particular thing. And again, intent, energy, intent. You know, this is, and as you're gathering them, it's for that one thing. My guess is that we're going to be returning them back when we're done, but we'll see. Let's see what people are saying. Cowrie shells were used as money. Like as currency, Linda? That's awesome. That's great to know. And Madam says they represent fertility. That's really awesome. Okay, so shells. When spells are done by the seashore, a protective circle can be marked out with a ring of shells gathered for that very specific purpose. Shells are strung and worn to promote fertility or to attract money. These would be some killer earrings if I had 2 of them, or just a nice big statement piece, right? Shells are strung and worn to promote fertility or to attract money since they were once used as money. Who just said that? Was it Heather? Who said that? Oh, Linda. Nice. Right after Linda said they were used as money, Scotty said, shells, since they were once used as money, were used as currency. Nice. Alright, so take a large univalve or one-piece shell and hold it close to your ear. This is something I've been doing since I was a kid. And I still can't figure out the science behind it. So it must be magic. I'm not being funny. I'm being completely honest in that statement. So take a large one-piece shell and hold it to your ear. You will hear the voice of the sea. Let it speak to you. That would be a great way to scry, you guys. Let it speak to you. You may hear messages of the future or of the past, or the sound of the sea may still your mind to psychic messages to be received. I'm loving that information that we just read right there, you guys. Where's the highlighter? Okay. So I'm just going to highlight that really quick because I love that. Okay. So a special shell that you find on the beach may be fashioned into a protective or a lucky amulet. So, you know how we're always on the beach and we're like, oh, this shell's so cool, and you don't really know why you pick it up? Perhaps it's because intuitively you know that you could use protection that day. Perhaps it's your spirit guides presenting it to you because you need protection that day. So Queen says, you did a lot of listening to shells as a child. Now you know what to listen to next time you get a shell. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. A shell in a home can be an indicator of the sea. Hold it to your ear. If the sounds within are loud, the sea is rough. If the sounds are soft, the sea is smooth and calm. Now that's when you're inside your home. So it would be interesting to know if somebody that lived like out on the ocean where they could see it were inside of their home with the doors closed and they listen to the shell. Maybe take a look and see if that's accurate. I bet that it is. A shell placed at the entrance of the house ensures that luck will enter it. Clarissa says, hi Jen, loving this topic. Is it okay to put a link about cowrie shells divination just discovered? I don't understand what you mean. You want to link this somewhere else? Please don't. If you want to put a link in the description, please do. But I don't want this to be shared because I've been having a lot of problems with under the bridge lurkers. I can't stop you guys from sharing my videos, but the reason I haven't been on too much is because I've been having a lot of problems with people coming in outside of the spiritual community. Thank you for asking, and if you want, you can link anything into this video. Yeah, go ahead. You can put a link in here. Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Okay, so a shell placed in the entrance of the house ensures that luck will enter it. Conches, C-O-N-C-H-E-S, I pronounce them conchs. Conches, or other very large, and that's like a giant sea snail. And sometimes you'll see those, like, people blow in them, and it goes, brrr, like at luau's, and well, that's where I've seen them, as luau's and Hawaiian events. But you can also find them at the thrift shop. You can find them at specialty shops, antique shops. So a big conch shell is something that Peggy always had when we were little, and we used to listen to them. We used to try and blow in them, all of that. So the conches are other very large univalves are blown at seaside rites to dispel negativity and invite the gods and good spirits to be present at rituals and spells. I really, really, really need to get Scott Cunningham's book on Hawaiian magic. I want that so badly before I go to Texas. Now, the only way I can get it is as a gift, either from my husband or from a friend, because I'm not spending money right now. That's like my big deal, is every single penny I have, I'm saving it for moving. So at some point I know I'll run into one, but I really, really want that book of Hawaiian Magic by Scott Cunningham, and I believe it's a small book like this, but we can get so much information out of it. So we'll look forward to that. I'm trying to manifest it. What herbs are good for breakup spells? I can put a note for it and do a video, but this video is just going to be on sea witching. So, breakup spells. Layla the Witch, Nature Lover. Herbs for breakup. Alright, Layla, I got your request in. Okay. So conscious, it's just really interesting that I've been blowing in them all my life, and I never knew, A, that was magical, B, that it was part of a magical ritual, and C, that what I was doing was, in one way or another, dispelling negativity and inviting the good spirits to be present. So, you know, it's all about intent, but at the same time, I think that sound does connect with spirit, whether your intent's there or not. That's just how I feel about it. I could be wrong. Okay, so now we're going to talk about driftwood. Now, I think that there is a difference between driftwood and drifted wood. Okay, so drifted wood could be anything from a 2x4 that somebody got at Home Depot 50 years ago and now it's washing up on your sea, to a piece of actual wood that, you know, broke off of a tree during a storm, and then made its way into the ocean, and now the sea has rubbed it round, and there's all these layers to it and stuff. I'm going to go run and get a piece of driftwood really quick so I can kind of hold it up and talk about it. So, a lot of people see blonde pieces of driftwood. These are a couple of pieces that I found when I was in Galveston, and I would consider these driftwoods because they're actually rounded from the sea. If you rub your hand on it, no splinters can be made, because it's just been polished by the sea and the salt. And remember, salt that's in the sea has this abrasiveness to it, and it will shape things over time. So here's another piece of driftwood that I found in Galveston. And as you can see, again, it's just very, very smooth. Almost looks like a rock, but when you pick it up, it is in fact very, very light. And then now drifted wood would be like a piece of processed wood that somehow made its way into the ocean and then now is back to you. That absolutely holds massive energy. So does a plastic bottle of litter that's floated through the ocean, even though it's garbagey plastic. The energy that's in there has gone through the ocean, has gone through the sea. There's no one direction. If you put something in the ocean, it makes it through the tides. It doesn't usually get back out of the tides. So the fact that it gets up onto the shore again has energy shoved it out there for you. I do believe that. So, there are a couple new people in the room. Hi, Uncle Badger. How are ya? Dark Prince Lucy. Hello. And you're welcome, Layla the Witch. I will get on top of that for you, and I can probably find time today. But you should put a little bit more details for me about the breakup, either in a private message on Skype, or I could just give you some general ones. But if the more I know about a situation, the more I can cater the herbs to what you need. Okay, so driftwood. Infused with salt by the sea and dried by the sun on the beach, it is the natural fuel for mystic bonfires, which often play a part in magic. See Chapter 7, Fire Magic. Driftwood can be used in spells, take an appropriate piece and carve your need into the wood with a knife. So if it was a long piece like this, you'd do it just like you were doing it in a candle. You could just write up and down like this. Twist, write your thing, and write it in future tense as though it's already happened. Use the law of attraction to manifest that phrase and bring it to you, okay? So if you're writing it on something like this, more flat, you could do as the English language and just do this, or as the Japanese language and do like this. So yes, some different types of driftwoods here. Okay, so after we write our petition with a knife, throw the driftwood into the sea, imploring it to grant your need. So as you're throwing it, which is loads of energy, by the way, as you're throwing it, you're putting your intent upon it, all right? Putting your need or your intent. A smaller piece of driftwood can be adorned with protective symbols and worn as an amulet or as a talisman to attract or repel forces depending on your desires. So I'm all about big chunky statement pieces, and I'm not afraid to wear them, including things like my chicken's feet that I make. I've done up plenty of statement piece necklaces with chicken feet, copper wire. I mean, these are things that not most people would just wear out and about because it's weird, but me and my friends do, and maybe it's because it is weird, but it's great. So let's take this and say we were going to fashion this into something. That might make a lovely statement piece as well. If you're, it just depends on your kind of fashion, I suppose. So you can wear it as well. A sort of a magic wand can be made from a piece of driftwood. With this wand, circles can be drawn in the sand in which magic can be performed. And wouldn't this be a cool tip to it because it's so pointy to draw your circles? Oh, Thomas, you'll like this one. It can also be used to sketch ruins into the sand. There are no rules for the size, shape, or type of wood used. However, whatever the sea has to offer is fine. So what that's saying too, I believe, is drifted woods would also be appropriate. As long as it's been in the sea for a certain time and washed up onto the shore, I think that counts. All right, so next thing we're talking about are fishing floats. Now, in South Texas, where I was, there were loads of fishing floats. What is a fishing float? I don't have one to show you because the one I bought from my mother-in-law. Hold on a minute. Oh, Michelle, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, are we connected on Skype? If not, my Skype is Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and I can give you my P.O. box, and then I will certainly read the entire book to you guys. We just got an offer for someone to purchase the book and send it to the channel. Michelle, that's amazingly kind of you, and I'm very thankful for your offer. So, yeah, Jen the Taxidermy Witch on Skype if anybody wants to donate anything to the channel, including any types of books, candles, incense, anything. All right, art supplies. So fishing floats are those big glass balls that have like hemp rope tied around the outside, and they're glass balls that are hollow on the inside so that they float. I've always felt like these hold a lot of energy, especially if they're antique, right? And they actually have been floating in the sea and used for their purpose. On the beaches of the Pacific Ocean, which is where I live over here in Seattle, in the northwestern part of the United States, fishing floats are cast up on the beach. This is also true of coastlines and many other parts of the world. Many years ago, all such floats, which are used to hold up fishing nets, were manufactured of glass, usually of a blue or a green tint. And a lot of times you'll see them, they'll look maybe clear from far away, but they'll have a light green tint to it. Or sometimes dark blue. But dark blue is really not as common, from what I've seen anyway. Okay, so This is true of coastlines in many parts of the world. The glass is thick and floats, pop when dropped or broken. So they make a popping sound when they are dropped or broken. Obviously, they're glass. Come on, Scotty. And on the base of the ball is a slightly raised mass of glass, where the ball was sealed tightly during its manufacture. So that's what that little seal part is on the ball. Unfortunately, most fishing floats are used today are plastic. If you do find a glass ball on the beach, you are extremely fortunate. If not, buy one in an antique or gift shop. Be sure the ball was not actually used in the sea, as it's be sure the ball was actually used on the sea, as this charges and empowers it. And that's what I mean. You can go to a shop and you can buy one brand new, just for decoration, okay, but it's not going to have all that crazy amazing energy. So go to an antique shop where they can put a date on it and tell you, oh, this is from the 40s. Or if you can find one with any sort of story behind it, perhaps on eBay or something else like that. Hi, love, light, and peace forever. How are you? Thank you for joining. Goddess Queen 33. You see a comet? Thanks for saying hello. Hello to you too. Alright, so, if the ball was actually used in the sea, this is the one that's going to be magical because the sea has actually empowered it. Okay, whether or not you find an old or a new ball, take it to the sea at high tide. High tide, remember, is the highest the ocean rises on the beach in any 12-hour period. Okay, so if it has not been used, or whether or not it has or has not ever been in the ocean before, you're going to want to take it to the ocean at high tide. And then you're going to dip it thrice, which is 3 times, once, twice, thrice, into the water and say the following. Orb of blue or green glass, here I charge thee to be a psychic boon to me. When touched with salt, your powers is free. This is my will, so mote it be. We'll say it again. Orb of green glass, here I charge thee to be psychic boon to me. When touched with the salt, your power is free. This is my will, so mote it be. Orb of blue glass, here I charge thee to be a psychic boon to me. When touched with salt, your power is free. This is my will, so mote it be. Remember when we say things and they rhyme? For whatever reason, the universe understands it more. It has more of like this energy that keeps going out. And it's also easy to remember, yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna, take the ball home, wrap it in a blue or a green cloth, depending on what color your ball is, and store it in a safe place. The fishing float may now be used as a crystal ball for scrying. Darn it! I should have got one when I was there for myself, but I am going back in like 3 or 4 months, so that's what I'll be doing for sure. So yeah, you can use it for scrying. Take it out, anoint its base with a dab of salt water before use, and hold it in the cloth and scry. So you would get a blue or a green cloth to lay it on the base. You would remove the webbing of rope from the outside and place it in the cloth, anointing it with a little bit of salt water before you begin scrying. For a long time I've wanted a crystal ball. I tried to make a black mirror. I've tried to fashion quite a few things to scry with. And I have, of course, methods of scrying, but I'm definitely going to be doing the sea float, the fishing float scry. Okay, next thing we're talking about is hold stones, aka like a hag stone. Where are my hold stones? Holy stones! Okay, so a hold stone or a hag stone is something where there is a hole that goes all of the way through it and you can actually see through it. This one, the holes don't go all the way through, but if they did, it would be a holed stone, okay? Now there's a lot of lore about hagstones and that, but I did a video on hagstones. You can watch it if you want to. It's quite old. Just look up taxidermy witch and hagstones. So if you find a stone with a hole pierced through it on the seashore, take it, for it is a very valuable magical tool. The hold, or holy, Holey, stone is hung up in the home for protection, worn on a cord around the neck for the same purposes, and it is used many other magical ways. Take a hold stone, or a hagstone, find a stick that fits tightly through the hole, and lodge it firmly inside. Throw it into the sea. Love will come to you. Hey Lunea, we're on a topic that I knew that you would love. We're reading about sea witchery by Scotty, out of this book right here. Okay, so that's one way to get love to you, is if you were to take a stick that would fit perfectly through the hole, get it jammed in there like a smaller stick obviously, and then throw it with the stick. Love will come to you. Now, I would add on to that by saying really visualize and try and manifest as you're throwing that. Visualize the love that you want to come to you, or if there's a specific person in mind, visualize them, or just visualize yourself being ultimately happy, you know, with no abandon. Alright, so that was that one. The sea, to see the spirits of the sea, take the hold stone with you to the ocean at night, at high tide. Close one eye. It's hard for me to do. I can't do the other one, just this one. And for some reason I feel like my tongue helps if I do this. I can't do it. Okay, enough of that. To see the spirits of the sea. Close one eye facing the sea and put the hold stone to the other. So you close this eye and you put the hold stone up to this one. Look through the hole and you may see spirits. Now, in my book about the fae and the fairy in the fairy realm, it says the same thing about hagstones. If you have a hagstone, keep it on you all the time, especially when you're in the forest. Keep it around your neck and make it on a chain long enough so that you can hold it up to your eye and look through it. And in this way, you will be able to see the fae. Now, I've never been able to see the fae besides in the form of something else, like my peacocks or orbs, or sometimes I feel that they're there, but I can't actually see them. But if you have and this isn't coming from this book right now, I'm telling you a story about the fae. If you take a hold stone or a hagstone and you look through it, this is something I've done. I've gone out to the forest and made like a beautiful nature offering for the fairies after I've picked up litter for like 3 hours and danced and sung to them, because that's offerings that they really like. They also like offerings of bodily fluids, even the weird ones. So, or even the ones that are probably like, what? But they like tears, they like urine, they like blood, they like all kinds of bodily fluid offerings, which was like, really? But they do. So I would make a beautiful offering, light a candle, and then I'd literally go hide behind some bushes in a tree with my hagstone and just watch the offering for as long as I could. This is the closest I've ever come to hunting and being patient and sitting down. Hi Roseanne, how are you? Nice to see you, and Goddess Queen 33. But yeah, just sit back and just look and just watch, because over time I believe that if I keep doing that, I will in fact see a fairy. Perhaps just me, but I think that doing that, I'm actually manifesting it to happen. So that feels good as well. So that's the bit on hold stones. Also, it says for healing, place a hold stone into your bath water. Now, let me show you my bath stone. Where is it? I have a big, giant hold stone that I keep in my bath. Where is it? I don't have a bathtub in this house, so normally I just take it to my mother's house. I can't think of where my hold stone is. I guess it could be at Peggy's, but I have this big hold stone that I got out of the Columbia River. And it does have holes that go all the way through it, quite a few. And it's like this big, it might weigh 15 or 20 pounds. I put that in the bath with me, and I just kind of cross my legs over it. And then I use that for massive amounts of cleansing. Hey B, hi Kale, how are ya? Okay, so that was hag stones or hold stones. This stone should be used for this purpose only. That's the other thing. That big stone that I put in the bath with me, I only use it for that. So for healing, and add salt to the water and step in. The stone should be used for this purpose only. The hold stone is one of the most valuable tools of magic, and it is free, a gift from the sea. Believe me, they're hard to find, and if you find one, you guys, and you're out on vacation, just throw away the clothes and make room for that stone in your suitcase. There were loads of clothes that I threw away on the way back home from Texas because I wanted to bring my nature stuff home, and all of a sudden at the end it was like, oh, we don't have money to ship that home. And I was like, well, fine, I'm getting rid of my clothes and I'm keeping that. You know, these things are more important to me than any clothes that I have. And the gift of actually finding it is like so rare, and certain people in your life won't understand that. You're gonna give up your clothes for this rock? Yeah, I am. You want to watch me? So I just wanted to say that first. Nature stuff is priceless to me, really. Things that I find like that. Hey, Queen, what do you mean? You said at Uncle, she said she was going to delete it afterwards. What are you talking about? Oh, Goddess Queen, awesome. I'll check out your channel too if you've got one. I love to subscribe back to you guys. It's my favorite. Lunea said, and Raven says she would too. Lunea says, Goddess, we use the hug word. Oh, right. So we try as best we can not to say the word subscriber. We try to say, I hugged your channel and rang your bell. And that's only because YouTube might take down the video if we talk too much about the S word. So if you hear people talking about the S word, that's what they're talking about. No worries. Let's move along. So next we're going to talk about seaweed. Okay, seaweed is one of my favorite things, like I said earlier on in the video. I've got many types in my kitchen that I eat, and the same types are on my magical shelf. Oh, you were on about one of Lunea's lives. Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't say something like I was going to delete this, because I'm not. Okay, so seaweed. While seaweed is an important food source in many parts of the world, especially Japan, here in the West, it is rarely used, except in processing and preserving different foods and products such as toothpaste and ice cream. Scotty, I had no idea that toothpaste and ice cream were processed with seaweed, did you guys? I know that the beaver anal glands are a part of vanilla flavoring, unless it says vanilla bean, so the only ice cream I ever get is vanilla bean. Ever. If it says French vanilla or old-fashioned vanilla, all of that, the beaver anal glands were used to make that taste. It's interesting to think of who discovered that and why. All right, on to seaweed. While seaweed is an important food source, we already said that, preservative. There are many magical uses of seaweed, however. Dry a small piece of any type outdoors. When it is fully dry, hang it in the home and it will keep the structure safe from fire. And my guess why is because seaweed is so salty, and doesn't salt put out fire. Like in the kitchen, if there's a grease fire, you pour salt on it to put it out. Might be why. Hey, we have somebody new here. Bruches. Janine. Welcome. Nice to see you. Yes, my daughter and I ate seaweed last night as a snack. We got like a 24 pack of seaweed little bites, and really super yummy. Okay, so dried seaweed is also used for kindling the fires on the beach. So kindling is the little pieces of wood that you put under the big pieces of wood to get it lit. So it goes like paper, kindling, big pieces of wood. You light the paper gets the kindling on fire, then the kindling gets the bulk of the fire started. So we can use dried seaweed as kindling. And you know your Kindle on your phone? That word roots from kindling as well, I do believe. Okay, so dried seaweed for fires on the beach as kindling. And is hung, and so dried seaweed is also used and hung outside as a weather indicator. When the seaweed is shriveled up, the weather will be sunny. When it smells and feels damp to the touch, however, chances are wet weather is to be expected. Linnea, when we get to Texas, this is an excellent way for us to do that very same thing. And remember, we're talking about drying things and keeping them in the jars and like how they can kind of like get rotten or go bad once they're jarred up in a humid area. I really think that the seaweed thing will be a good indicator of what the weather's going to be like. I like that a lot. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, Linnea and I are both moving to the Houston area almost at the same time. She's moving, I think she's got like 12 days till she moves, and then I'll probably moving at the end of August. We will be doing beach rituals, that's for sure. And I'm really excited because Linnea and I will be able to do actual collabs where we go out together. And I wasn't okay with moving until I found out that such a beautiful person was going to be there with me, and now I'm all for it, so I'm really excited. Yeah, beach rituals, Clarissa, for sure, for sure. Okay, so next, a small piece of seaweed placed in a jar of whiskey. Linnea, try this because I don't have whiskey. Tightly capped and set in a sunny window may attract money to your household. The bottle should be shaken every day. So, get a piece of seaweed from the beach. If you can't go to the beach to get it, go to the grocery store. Get a piece of seaweed. Put it in a jar of whiskey, tightly capped, set it in the sunny window, and shake it as much, shake it every day, and it will attract money to your household. If I had whiskey, I would do that right now. The following is a collection of sea spells as they are performed today. They can be done by anyone, provided you are close to the sea or given a large lake or river. And remember, as we read in the beginning, if you don't have any of those things with you, fill up your bathtub with salted water. And you can also do like a makeshift sea. And if you don't have that, the biggest bowl you have, right? You can make it work. Okay, so we've got about 4 pages of spells. And that's the last chapter in the book, which is pretty cool. I think that things begin and end with the sea somehow. Yeah, I know, Luna. This is, honestly, you guys, we're reading out of this book, Earth Power by Scott Cunningham. It's not even a super big book. It's about, and it's small as well. It's really quite small. But the information that's in here is shut up amazing. And it's got every part of the earth. Fire, tree magic. Let me read you we're going to read those Sea Witch spells, don't worry. But I just want to read the table of contents of this book. And also look at comments. And Linnea, somebody in the chat, Michelle Cooter is going to donate that book that I've been wanting for a long time, Scott Cunningham's Hawaiian Magic. Hi, Lily.
Hi.
So we're really excited about that. And then Janine says, hi all, thanks for the welcome. I don't know how to do your pick. You're fine. You'll get it, hon. So yes. Okay. So part 1 of this book is Touching the Earth. Chapter 2, Magic Spelled Out. Chapter 3, Techniques. Chapter 4, Elements and Magic. And then there's a second part, part 2, which is Elemental Magic. So you have Earth Magic, Air Magic, Fire Magic, and Water Magic. Part 3 is Natural Magic, which contains Stone Magic, Tree Magic, Image Magic, Knot Magic, Candle Magic, Wax Magic, Mirror Magic, Rain, Fog, and Storm Magic, and Sea Magic. So right now I'm reading the last chapter of the book. Okay, so for workings, The first working in here starts on page 153, and it's called, well, it's just for a cleansing. When you feel cursed, hexed, angry, or cluttered up with fears and anxieties, walk into the sea at dawn. Let the waves splash over you and say something like the following. I perform this act of cleansing in the place of the beginning of all life. Waves lap my body and spirit. Dust falls into the cleansing sea. I am renewed and fresh. Fresh as the sea. See how that rhymed? Now walk from the water onto the sand and let the winds dry your body. It is done. And I will be reading that Hawaiian Magic book on this channel because I've been talking about it for about a year now. Well, since I started the channel, basically. Okay, so the next one, the next working is to fall into a trance. Sit and close your eyes on the beach, above the high tide line. So, okay. Let's say behind me was a bunch of rocks, and in front of me, you guys are the ocean, but behind me there's like a seawall, okay? Now, on every type of seawall, you're going to be able to see where the tide hits just by looking at the rocks. And you'll see a shift in color. And it's because where the water has hit the rock, the salt, the elements of the water have kind of either discolored it or it eroded away. I'm not sure what happens scientifically, but you'll see this like this kind of line where one color is different, one color is the next. And that's really probably the best way to figure out the highest tide line is from maybe a seawall behind you. So you will, sit and close your eyes on the beach above the high tide line. So you're going to want to sit above that line. So if the line was right here, I would sit on top of the rocks. And a good place in general to be above the high tide line is just sitting on top of the rocks, okay? So, relax and listen to the crashing and flowings of the ocean, and you will entrance yourself. I think most of us can agree with that. There's so many times that I've been able just to sit in front of the sea, close my eyes, and almost instantly go into a deep meditation. It just feels like it will easily put you into a trance. It makes a lot of sense. So you will entrance yourself. Or watch the reflections of the full moon bouncing on the ocean. Follow its path with your eyes to the horizon and then back again toward you, repeating this until you fall into a trance. That's awesome. Next, we have another working. It is a sea witch's bottle. Take a large jar with a tight-fitting lid, such as a canning or mayonnaise jar, and a bag to the ocean early every morning, preferably just after high tide. Walk on the beach gathering small pieces of driftwood, shells, rocks, those natural objects that have just been thrown up onto the sand by the waves. Place these in the bag. When you have gathered several things, stop, sit on the beach, and spread them out before you. That's weird because I do that. I like to look at my things, like I like to just spread them all out, look at them all, kind of like do a mental OCD organization, like it's my own cross to bear, I suppose, if you will. But anyway, it says, sit on the beach and spread them out before you. Place each in the jar, singly saying as you do. So singly saying is like, not like a hit the high C, but it's like, blah, 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 just kind of say it. Waves on the sand, the tide's in motion. You are now a silent ocean. Avert all evil to the sea. This is my will, so mote it be. I mean, do it however you want, but here are the words. Waves on the sand, the tide's in motion. You are now a silent ocean. Avert all evil to the sea. This is my will, so mote it be. But say it. Cover the bottle and return the earth to a normal appearance. So if you've dug up things, like if you had to get a shell, you had to dig it, then smooth it back over so it looks like a normal appearance back to the earth. Scotty is saying that that's an important part. Cover the bottle and return the earth to a normal appearance. If you cannot bury the bottle... Oh, it's saying bury it right on the beach. So cover the bottle with earth and return the earth to its normal appearance so that nobody would know that that bottle was buried under there. If you cannot bury the bottle, secret it in a flower pot, cover it with dirt or sand, and place it somewhere outside near the home. The jar will act as a protective device for your home and all who reside within it. Oh, you know what? I have to start this over because I skipped a part of it. I'm sorry. So, a sea witch's bottle. I'm just going to read it from start to finish. My uber apologies. Take a large jar with a tight-fitting lid, such as a canning or mayonnaise jar, and a bag to the ocean in the early morning, preferably just after high tide. Walk on the beach, gathering small pieces of driftwood, shells, rocks, those natural objects that have been thrown up onto the sand by the waves. Place them in the bag. When you have gathered several things, stop, sit, spread them out on the beach, and then place each into the jar, saying as you do. And this is what you say. Amulet of the sea that I have found, protective energy in you is bound. Amulet of the sea that I have found, protective energy in you is bound. Then, this is the part I missed, when each piece is placed in the jar, add a half a handful of fresh sand, and then fill it with seawater. So here's our jar. We're going to say the amulet song. Put a little shell in there, put some sand in there. Shell, sand, rock, sand, shell, sand, rock, sand. Sand in between each thing. And then when you've got everything in the bottle, fill it with seawater, okay? Tightly cap or cork the jar and take it home. On your property, near the front porch if possible, dig a hole in the ground large enough to contain the bottle. As you place it in the hole, say the following. And it says say, not say. So the only thing you're saying is that amulet bit when you're at the sea. When you get home and you get it into the hole, you say the following. Waves on sand, the tides in motion. You are now a silent ocean. Avert all evil to the sea. This is my will, so mote it be. And think of how cleansing the sea is. If those energies get averted back to the salty sea, sounds pretty darn cleansing to me. You can go to the beach soon if you make a trip to Texas this fall and visit me and Linnea, Uncle Badger. Start saving, hun. So now cover the bottle and return it to the earth to a normal appearance. So that hole that you dug under your front porch, you're just going to make it look as normal as possible. And if you can't dig a hole, like if you live in an apartment or something like that, then you can just do a secret flower pot, cover it with dirt or sand, and place it somewhere outside near the home. So perhaps on your back porch, or sometimes in apartments they let you put things right outside your front door. That would be another great place for it. Okay, so the jar will act as a protective device for your home and all who reside within it. That is the fullness of that working. One day, Thomas, one day. Oh, Otis. Look how cute he is. He's the cutest kitty. He's just tuckered out from I don't even know what. Otis, what did you get up to last night, bud? Let's see if he's sleeping. Oh, no, you're not really asleep. Hi, bud. We love you. Yeah. There you go. He likes that little chicken foot. Don't chew the nails, though, bud. Love you. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Okay. Enough of the cat, right? Kitty toes are the best. I know. I was laughing at Otis the other day because he's like, that's his spot. He just kind of sits at the end of the bed unless he curls up in my armpit. But he came into bed and his feet were full of mud. And I was like, dude, you didn't even wipe your feet before you got into bed? What is the deal? But yeah, we have a fun relationship, that cat and I. Okay, so the next working is really short. It is to send forth power. All right. Sit on the beach and meditate. Visualize your need. Feel the power. When the energy is at its peak, hold it until a wave crashes on the sand and then release it. The wave will magnify the power tremendously. That's super simple. Okay, the next one is a sea love spell. On a Friday at high tide, preferably at night, take an apple and some cloves to the ocean. I like it already. On the beach, stud the apple with the cloves, marking out the ruin of love in it thrice. See Appendix 2. So the ruin of love looks like this. That's the ruin of love. So you're going to take your apple. I just happen to have an apple because I'm about ready to do an offering. So you take the apple and you take your cloves and you poke. The cloves will sit in there. Like, this is a really popular thing that's old wives' tale that's done by many muggles all of the time with oranges and cloves during the holiday season. And they'll make a star or just clove the whole thing, and then hang it, and it smells amazing, right? But you'll make that love ruin in the apple, clove it in, and now hold the apple in your power hand and infuse it with your desire for love, saying such words as this: apple of love, cloves of fire, this is my need, my desire. Throw the apple as far from you out to sea as you are able. So shall it be. The bucket spell. So here's another working. Yeah, these are really simple and cool. Hey Cole, how are ya? Nice to see ya. Okay, so this is the bucket spell. Fill an iron-bound bucket in the sea and throw the water back. So if you have some sort of, well, a cauldron would work because it's iron. So basically, if you just have an iron bucket, you could use that. But I don't have an iron bucket. But a cauldron is cast iron. And so that would work. And you can just take a bucket of seawater and throw it back. Hi, freshwater fairies. How are you? Yeah, you could use any ruin or meaning for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, an iron bucket. Fill it with seawater. And we're reading out of this for all of you who have just joined me, the chapter called Sea Magic. So, fill an iron-bound bucket in the sea and throw the water back. Repeat this twice more, and each time as you return the water to the sea, so as you're throwing it back in, say, I return to you what is yours, return to me what is mine. This spell is used to bring sailors and fishermen home safely from the sea. So if you have a loved one or a family member that's a marine biologist or in the Navy or on a secret black op mission at sea or whatever, this is something that you can do to get them home safely. Okay, Otis. Bye, bud. Love you. He was done with his time in here. Okay, so that's super simple, the bucket spell. But the fact that it's iron does mean something, and I think that the iron has to do with, aren't ships generally made from, well, no, they're probably made from steel. I don't know what the iron would have to do with it. Perhaps the iron has to do with most people have Rh positive blood, and that blood base is iron. Maybe you're asking to bring back the iron blood. If that was the case, then you'd certainly want to use, if you knew your whoever you wanted home's blood type, you'd want to use a copper one to bring back somebody with a negative blood type. If that's why. I don't know, but if. There's no reason you couldn't do both. Oh, yes, right. Sorry. If you guys want me to see something, and for sure just say it in caps. Cole said, would love spells work using something other than cloves? I asked because I don't have any on hand. Yeah, actually, we're going to be talking a bunch about love spells, but let me I feel like if I... Okay. Yes, Cole. Yes, of course. Like, if you... Well, the cloves are something that you could stud with, so... Perhaps you could use pins, like red pins, like this. Like out of your sewing box. You could use Color Magic with pins. Where are my pins? There we go. So see all of these different pins that have heads on them, and this will be the shape of our apple. You could make a ruin symbol in the color of pins that you wanted, and if it was for love, I would probably use red or pink. Or white. Remember, white can be used for anything. So either a white pin or a red pin. As far as an herb would go, I can't think of another herb that would really stud something besides a thorn. And thorns are generally for more of a baneful type of working. Ooh, I know, you could use chicken toes. That's what I would use, chicken toes. Let me show you my jar of chicken toes. Where are they? Oh, they're somewhere. But basically, I dry my own chicken toes where I cut them off before I dry them, so they're just like, and I use those to stick into candles for cleansing working, usually for cleansing, not usually for baneful stuff, protection cleansing. I don't see why you couldn't use it for love, and if you did, you could paint those toenails red. Like this. Right? Get creative. As far as an herb goes, I can't think of another studded herb. Can you guys think of something that might work for Cole? Janine, did you think of something? You're finishing up your dreads today? Freshwater Fairies, you must send me some pictures. I want to see... And no, you're not yelling if you put them in all caps. It's just my new way of making sure I get to comments that need to be seen for sure. And then I also get to stay on track because I'm not trying to read through all the comments. But cloves in general... as you can see, have this like... They dry and they're really hard, and then they have this like little bulb at the top, and then the rest of it is just kind of sharp, so it actually pokes in like a pin. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of another herb that does that. Yeah, so we'll get more extensive into that one, but I think that the pins would work pretty well, and you can get those anywhere, and most people have them around the house. So here's another working to communicate with one at sea. Star anise could work if you broke off the edge of the star, and it's really close to clove in smell and things like that. That's a great idea, star anise. Let's see if I can find some to show you guys. Where are my stars? I reorganized my herbs. Now I can't find anything, of course. Ooh, valerian root. I saw valerian root, and a root would work. So Goddess Queen says, yep, that's how you can do it. Paint the chicken toes red. Actually, your full intention is what matters. And that's what I'm always trying to teach Goddess Queen 33. If you don't have something, it doesn't mean you can't do the working. It means that day that working wasn't meant to be done with that thing by you. In my honest opinion, I really think that every time we see a recipe for a working, we should change it up at least one or two things to make it our own. You know, not necessarily take something away, but add something in at least, or put a sigil onto it, or, hi Butterfly Magic with hot tea, how are ya? Oh, you have 2 chickens' feet and don't know what to do with them? A great thing to do is to take a chicken's foot and perhaps before you do some scrying, or before you do a tarot, before you do a ritual, before or after, cleanse yourself with a chicken's foot. And here's the best way to do it. Where the nails are, you don't need to actually touch yourself, but you can. About an inch away, sweep out from your body, And this is another way to do cleansing, like you would with sage or juniper berries or Palo Santo, all the way down, down and out. So down by your body and out, pushing that negative energy out and away. So these are cleansing and protective for that reason. You could put it into a big statement piece necklace with some hemp. You could keep it on your altar. You could keep it with your tarot cards for the cleansing. Loads of things you can do with these guys. You could also use the whole, like, spirit animal. You could use the chicken, right? All the things that the chicken do for people, when you read a book about spirit animals, you could use it for one of those as well. Thanks, Clarissa. It was really good to see you. Yes! Hang it on the front door for protection from the home or repelling the evil eye. Another really good suggestion. Okay, so to communicate with one at sea, this is a new working we're going to be doing. Do I keep the same one? Yes, I do. And then I bless it under the moonlight, like on the full moon. Or on the new moon, but usually under the full moon. And that's how I kind of cleanse it, just like you cleanse your stones in the moon. I do the same thing with this. Okay, so to communicate with one at sea, fill a large crystal vessel with seawater. Place this on the sand, and sitting before it, hold your hands, palms down over the water's surface, and vividly visualize the face of the person you wish to contact. Remove your hands, and with your imagination, write your message upon the surface of the water. With your imagination, this does take some really vivid visualization, I would say. Next, throw the water into the ocean. This spell will carry your message to one at sea. So the last two, the bucket spell and the communication spell, are to do with ones that are at sea. And Goddess said, absolutely correct. Make it your own because you want your true essence, your intentions into the spell. Yeah, and it will work much better. And it will work much better for you personally. The person who does the writings of their own spells, and if you create your own spells, oh gosh, they're just going to work so much better for you guys. That's why I'm always suggesting Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, the green book, page 276. There's like 10 pages after that. That's all you need for confidence to write your own spell on any topic, in my opinion. Okay, for witchcraft. Not for hoodoo, but for witchcraft. Can certainly be used in hoodoo, but there's going to be some different viewpoints on a lot of the herbs. Yeah, goodbye, Goddess. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to check out your channel when we're done here. I'm really excited about having you here. Thank you. Okay, so this one is just called a sea spell, and we've only got 2 workings left, and then we're done. A sea spell. This is an all-purpose spell. Go to the seashore when the tide has begun to rise, after low tide but before high. Upon the sand, just above the line where the waves are breaking, draw a circle about 1 foot in diameter with your fingers. Next, draw a rune or image of your need within the circle you've formed. As you draw it, visualize blue liquid flame striking the sand where your finger digs into it. When the figure is complete, see the power resting within the furrows on the wet sand like a phosphorant water in a perfect pattern of your need. Firmly visualize. And you guys are going to be able to firmly visualize better if you're practicing meditation. And if you're practicing like guided meditation with somebody speaking, there's loads of guided meditations. But for me, that helps me become better with visualization and firmly visualizing. I can't say it right. Now step back and wait for the waves to rinse and wash away your design. This is a working I actually did on my own in Texas and had no idea that anybody else had ever done it, but I guessed, yeah. If you write your words, your intention, and law of attraction in future tense into the sand and the ocean picks it up and slowly carries it out, doesn't that just sound so amazingly magical? Because it's being carried out into the biggest body of anything in the world, and then touching every edge of every world. So I think that that's really amazing. So it says, now step back and wait for the waves to rinse and wash away your design, releasing the energy to go forth and to do your bidding. One day while performing this spell on the beach during a light rain, I stood waiting for the waves to wash it away. As it did, I felt a bolt of energy. This is what Scotty says. As it did, I felt a bolt of energy shoot up from the ruin I'd sketched on the sand and hit me in the chest. It was an actual physical sensation. The energy went forth and did indeed bring into manifestation my need. That's crazy cool. That's so, so crazy cool. If you guys have any experiences like that, I would love to hear about them. I have a couple, but I don't want to cry right now, and I certainly will cry if I talk about them. Hey, yeah, from the Dark Pool, I saw you just sent me some pictures on Skype. I'm looking forward to seeing them. So this last one is a shell spell. Shell spell. Gather a sufficient quantity of shells upon the beach. They don't have to be perfect, polished specimens, but should be fairly whole and complete. Do this, of course, at the proper tide, depending on what your need is, right? Positive or baneful. Just after, at a secluded stretch of beach, stand holding the shells in your hand or bag and watch the waves for a while you're holding them. Every 7th or 9th wave should be larger than the others. While this is supposed to be only superstition, I have observed the waves on the west coast, which is where I'm at, of the United States, occurring in this series. Just after the water wave, lay the shells onto the freshly washed sand in a crude image of your need. Or, if you wish, simply mark out with shells the lettering spelling your desire. So, write something out in little shells or rocks. Well, shells. Write out your desire onto the sand with a bunch of little shells. Work quickly, then stand back and wait for the high wave to return. If and when it does, your shells are tumbled back into the sea and your desire shall be granted. Now, before I'm done, and that was the end of the book, right? Now, before I'm done, I do want to look up something for Layla the Nature Witch. Are you still here, Layla the Nature Witch? If you are, say yes, and I will try and look these things up for you right now. You asked about herbs for a breakup. Layla the Witch of Nature, are you still here? Layla. No? Okay. Well, if you're not here, then I'm just going to do that in a separate video. So, it was really lovely going through this book with you guys. I would like to come back today and read through the chapter that preceded this, chapter 16, and it is all about rain, fog, and storm magic. So I'm hoping to come back. Yeah, I'm just going to come back and get it on tour. So we'll come back and we'll read chapter 16. I know we're reading backwards, but it's just what my guides told me to do this morning was to read chapter 17 to you guys. So there we are. We'll be back later on today to talk about rain, fog, and storm magic. All my love to you guys, and if you are watching this video after it's done, after the live is over, please leave a comment and let me know what you think of all those different workings, and if you've ever done any sea workings on your own intuitively, just like I had done on the sand, and then it ended up being in that book, and I was like, wow, Scott Cunningham, you are a lot closer to me than I ever really acknowledged. So I feel blessed about that. Thank you, Uncle Badger. Thank you. Love you guys. Make sure to hit the like and hug and ring. And that's about it. I'll talk to you guys soon, and we'll be talking about rain, fog, and storm magic from Scott Cunningham's Earth Power.